In this video, we're going to talk about how to remove your student's weaving from their loom. So my student Robin gave me permission to use this loom in my video. So thank you, Robin. So the first thing we're going to do is remove the ends from our cardboard loom, and then we're going to cut right up the center. Now, without pulling the warp lines are the straight lines. Think warp speed ahead. The warp lines are very straight, and if we pull them out, the weaving will cease to exist. It has nothing to live on. So we want to be careful not to pull the warp lines. We're just taking them out of the notches on the cardboard. Same thing on the other side. And removing the loom. The loom can be reused over and over again. I had my students write their vocabulary words directly onto the loom so they could try to remember them more by looking at them more, and that they'd have them if they took it home to keep working on it. Now we have freed all the warp lines, and what you're going to do is take every two of the warp lines on the top and the bottom, and you're going to tie double knots. Some students are able to do this in class, and some students are still working on it and want to take it home and continue working on it. So I wanted them to be able to take off their looms at home. So if you're a student doing this at home, you're going to take two strings, because we're still talking about tying knots together in class. You make an X, and the one that's on the bottom, the one that's on the back, is going to go through like bunny ears, and it makes like a pretzel right there. Pull that down, it's like a twist. And then do the same thing again. Make an X, the one that's behind, this one's on top, this one's behind. Put it through and pull closed. Now we did 7 warp lines, so there's not an even number to tie knots. So then just take the next one and tie that off. And this is just time consuming, so you're just going to take your time. And now we have our 7 warp lines on this side, but we have a color. So that's the first row here. So we're going to tie it off with that one instead. So that's also a possibility. You just need to tie it off to something to keep the whole weaving together. Our warp lines are the orange straight lines. You can think like warp speed ahead. That when we see outer space movies and they jump into warp speed, the fastest speed, like maybe the ship has, we drew like little ships, and we did warp speed to show that they're straight lines of the stars zooming past the ship. So first we're tying off all the warp lines. Before we go to the weft lines are the wiggly lines that create the pattern. The pattern is the over-under pattern with the colors that you chose. And now we're going to do the weft lines. So we've completed all the warp lines. You can trim these down, or you can leave them long. It's up to you how you would like those to look. And sometimes it's easier to trim. Some of these are really long, so it'll just take longer to tie knots, so we can just trim these off just to make it easier to work with. And now we're just going to keep tying knots. We just take this black one's near this orange one, so I'm just going to tie these off together. Then I'm going to tie these 2 red ones together. And then this orange one with this red one. Then this pink and black one. And then, like I said, you can trim these off. It does make it easier to see what's going on without all of these in the way. We have this green and this pink one. And then trim this off. We'll trim some of this just to see what we're looking at. All right, and this part is probably a little bit more complicated. If you're a student, make sure that you have some help from a teacher, from a parent. But it's also good to practice tying knots. So I'll slow down again to review tying knots if you're still learning. These are from the same string. So you make an X. The one that's on the bottom goes through, makes a twist, pull the twist down like a pretzel. Again, and that's it, double knot. And just trim them away. You can make necklaces out of your weaving. You can make it into a bracelet or a carpet for your dollhouse. You can hang it from a beautiful branch and hang it on the wall as a miniature tapestry. You can, some people put eyes on them, make like a face, eyes and a nose and a mouth, and make a face out of it. You can sew little details onto it. It could be a cape for a superhero that you might have, a toy. It could be an outfit for one of your toys. So there's many uses for these. Just use your imagination and whatever feels good to you. You can use it in that way. It can be a coaster for drinks or a hot chocolate, mugs of hot cocoa. So whatever you see it as. And if it's just a piece of art, that's okay too. It doesn't have to become something else. So you can see we're at about 7 minutes of doing this, so it's time consuming. So some students prefer to take it home and do it with a grown-up at home that they trust. Just sit with them and work on this, because I can't get to them all in class either. And help the kids that need help with weaving and do all the other things that happen in a class period. So sometimes it's just easier to have kids take it home and then they get one-on-one attention to take it off their loom, and that way we can move on to another project in the classroom. So there's a lot of pros to sending this home to be completed the rest of the way at home is also wonderful. Weaving is very calm and rhythmic. It's a great calming activity to do. So we're going to trim down these ends. We're going to give them a little haircut. And there you have it. Beautiful weaving. I'm going to go deliver this to my student. And see you next time. Thank you.